Hi folks, welcome to the channel. It's been a number of weeks since I've done a book haul, thanks to work being done on the house, and I've been ill for a week or so. But today I took myself off into town to visit our second-hand bookshop, Michael Moon's, Whitehaven. Michael Moon's is a excellent bookshop. It's that old-fashioned style, over 2 floors, about a dozen odd different rooms, little nooks and crannies, books piled high on the floor in boxes. Wonderful stuff. It's where I started a couple of years ago, starting to collect vintage SF and horror, if I could find it. And first 4 or 5 visits, excellent. Got loads of stuff from there. Over the last year, there's been less to find. They haven't seemed to have got any new stock in. But this week, I saw a Facebook posting by them, and they showed photos of 6 or 7 boxes full of vintage SF. So what could I do but go down? Unfortunately, I couldn't go down. I think the posting was Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was only today, Friday, that I managed to get down there, which meant I'd missed out on some. I think Mr. Moon said that somebody had ordered, I think, 90 books online. Hate to think which ones they got, but excuse me. But nevertheless, I came back with this lot. Have I got a problem? Nah. The only problem is storage. Anyway, let's get on and I'll show you what I've picked up. The first one isn't science fiction and fantasy, it's more horror, I suppose. And this is Roof World by Christopher Fowler in a nice hardback from Legend Books. I'm a big fan of Christopher Fowler. I think he unfortunately passed away earlier this year, which is a great shame. I loved his books. He started off writing mainly horror, and when I had to move house, unfortunately, I got rid of all of my novels by him, but I kept the short story collections. I used to have this in paperback, so I was really pleased to find this again. So let's get on to the SF. Some of this I've got a feeling I might already have. I'm going to have to get my spreadsheet onto my phone so I can check when I'm there. But these were all cheap, so if I've got them, I'll pass them on. Anyway, first up, we have a Penguin edition of Frederick Pohl's Drunkard's Walk. This is a 1960 novel, and this publication is from 1966. All of these are in decent order. A lot of the books that they got in this collection, which I think came from just one person, a lot of them, the spines were very bad. Obviously very well read, but I'm getting pretty picky. I want them in decent condition, particularly the spines. I'm not yet up to Mr. Stephen Andrews' quality requirements, but I'm getting there. Anyway, that's the first one. Next up, I can't remember whether I have this one or not. This is C.S. Lewis's Voyage to Venus, a nice early Pan edition. It's in really good condition. Condition? I didn't say them the right way around, didn't I? This was originally published in 1943, but this is the 7th printing from 1963. Next we have A. Van Vogt's Planets for Sale with that great Chris Voss cover. I've liked what I've read by Vogt in the past. He's a pretty reliable author, I find. Some of his prose can be a bit clunky, but otherwise excellent stories. I think, speaking of Mr. Andrews, he showed this recently in one of his pickups, though I think in probably better condition than mine. As you know, if you've been watching my videos, I like my anthologies, and this is Book 2 of the Astounding Analog Reader, edited by Harry Harrison and Brian Aldiss. 8 science fiction masterpieces from the world's greatest SF magazine. Decent condition. What year is this one? 1970, printed in 1973, so the stories come from 1970. They don't. Excuse me. I was going to say they come from 72. They don't. The stories are all from between 1942 and 1946. You get City by Clifford D. Simak, First Contact by Murray Leinster, and you get a story by one of my favourite authors, Frederick Brown, Placid is a Crazy Place. So that's Book 2. Sticking with anthologies, we have The Year's Best Science Fiction, number 6, edited by Harrison and Aldiss. This is the best science fiction of 1972, with contributions by Aldiss himself, Theodore Cogswell, Alex Hamilton, Harry Harrison, Christopher Priest, Ken W. Purdy, don't know, and Keith Roberts. So we have, I've got a feeling I might already have this, but I'm not sure. This is Larry Niven's The Integral Trees. This one's a 1983 novel, and this is a 1990 reprint from Orbit. Again, this one's in excellent condition, so it might be better than my copy if I already own this. We then have a number of books I think that I've picked up by Brian Aldiss, and this is Morrow's Other Island. It's in nice condition, except the spine's a bit faded. This is from Triad Granada from 1982. I must have read some short stories by Aldiss, but I've never read a novel or a collection. But he seems to like doing books based on famous literary figures, because he's done one on Dracula Unbound, and also Frankenstein Unbound. And now we have H.G. Wells' Moreau. Another one by Aldiss, New Arrivals, Old Encounters, again from Triad Granada, from 1985, this one. I think this is a collection of short stories. A book by the highly rated Thomas N. Dish with the wonderful title of White Fang Goes Dingo. Not a brilliant cover though, but great title. I've not read anything by Dish as yet, but I've got a couple of books now by him. These White Fang Goes Dingo and Other Funny SF stories. So if you don't like your humour, you might not like this. And this was first published in book form as 102 H-Bombs by Compact Books in 1966. This is a reprint, 1971 reprint by Arrow. There's a couple of stories in here written with John Sladek. And a more modern volume, 10,000 Light Years from Home by James Tiptree Jr. I've not read any of her works. That's a common theme, isn't it? James Tiptree Jr. was obviously a pseudonym for Alice B. Sheldon. She comes highly rated. It says here, her work brought to the genre a blend of lyricism and inventiveness, as if some poet had rewritten a number of clever SF standards and then passed them on to a psychoanalyst. That's a quote by Brian Aldiss. So this must be very recent. Yeah, 2020, it's only 3 years old, this, though it was originally published in 1973. Another one by Brian Aldiss, The 80-Minute Hour. The Chris Foss cover there. I think this one is a novel. From 1985 by Triad Granada again. Bit of curvature and creasing, but otherwise not too bad, though the text block's a bit grubby. Two by Piers Anthony. Bio of a Space Tyrant, Volume 1, Refugee, and Bio of a Space Tyrant, Volume 2, Mercenary. I don't know how many there are in this series. Is this just the two? Are there more? But they're in excellent condition, these ones. They don't look like, well, yes, they do look like they've been read, but carefully. Again, a bit grubby on the text blocks, but otherwise not bad. And these date back again, 1985. If you recognise any of these, well, you will recognise them, being SF experts, all of you. But if you've read any, let me know what you think. I'll be very happy to know. Another A. Van Vo, The Proxy Intelligence and Other Mind Benders. I like that cover. I should have extended it over the full cover. This one's not brilliant, it's creased and a bit of curvature, but otherwise, for what looks like a very early book, is in pretty good condition. This is a first printing from January 1971. Book of short stories, obviously. A more modern author, one I've heard of but not read anything by. This is Greg Egan with Luminous, a collection of stories. I know he comes highly regarded. And this is from 1998. excuse me while I dive deeper into this box, or bag rather. We have Poul Anderson's Three Hearts and Three Lions. That wonderful cover, nice wraparound cover. It's described as science fiction fantasy, but the gathering forces of the dark powers threatened the world of man. The legions of fairy, aided by trolls, demons, and the wild hunt itself, were poised to overthrow the realms of light. Sounds more like straight fantasy than science fantasy. Original copyright 1953. This is a 77 imprint. Except, love that cover. And speaking of excellent covers, we have another one by Brian Aldiss. I told you there were a few in here. And this is Intangibles, Inc. and Other Stories. So yet another short story collection. And another wraparound cover. Love that. Quite psychedelic, colourful. 5 stories in here. This is from Corky Books. Originally from 1969. And yeah, this looks to be a 1969 printing of it. Another, excuse me, still recovering from my cold. We have Samuel R. Delaney and The Jewels of Aptor for Sphere Books. This one's in nice condition. The story of a post-atomic quest and an extremely accomplished first novel, streaked through with poetry and crammed with vivid images. Sounds good. Samuel R. Delaney, winner of 3 Nebula Awards. Obviously wrote Nova and Babel 17. This one's a 1967 novel. This edition's from 1971. All right. We have, I just showed book 2. This is book 1 of The Astounding Analog Reader. It was edited by Harrison and Aldiss. So what have we got in here? In here we have stories by Don A. Stewart, Raymond Z. Gallon, Harry Bates, P. Schuler Miller, Russ Rocklin, Isaac Asimov with Nightfall, and Anson MacDonald, again from 1973. Next up we have James Blish. This will be an early book. This is because it's from Foursquare Science Fiction, who I think were part of or became the New English Library. Quite a slim little novel. Galactic Cluster. Quite like that. And this is from printed in 1968. All right, again. Why did I say again? We have a book in the Conan series by Els Bragdekamp, Lynn Carter, and Bjorn Nyberg. This is number 13 in the series. This is a series that Bragdekamp and Lynn Carter got a lot of stick, or do get a lot of stick for, because they took fragments of Robert E. Howard's Conan stories, finished them off, added new ones, but then mixed them all together in the series with, I think, Howard's own original stories. But I'll be interested to give this a go, see how they compared to the originals. Yeah, most of these are written by Carter and Sprague de Camp together, but there's one written by Bjorn Nyberg and Sprague de Camp. This is a 1979 reprint. We then have an early Panther edition of Roger Zelazny's A Rose for Ecclesiastes, with an introduction by Theodore Sturgeon. 4 novellas by Zelazny: The Furies, The Graveyard Heart, the Nebula Award-winning The Doors of His Face, The Lamps of His Mouth, and the title story. When was this produced? This is a 1969 edition. Excuse me. Next up, we have Mr. Harry Harrison with Rebel in Time, a brilliant novel of ultimate paradox. So I take this is a time travel story. Was he trapped in a vicious circle, or had he become the most powerful man of all time? I've read quite a few Harry Harrisons in there, like The Stainless Steel Rat and Homeworld and Death World, way back in the day. I always quite enjoyed his work. This is 1984 from Granada. How are we doing for time? 20 odd minutes. Another modern author, Ken MacLeod, with The Stone Canal from Legend Books. I picked up a couple recently. Did I get those from Jonathan at Sci-Fi Scavenger? I can't remember. My memory's bad. This is a series of short stories by the look of it. I've yet to try any MacLeod. This is from 1997. Next we have another anthology, an early anthology from Berkeley Medallion, and this is Tomorrow, the Stars, edited by Robert Heinlein, which features stories from Asimov, C.M. Kornbluth, Kurt Vonnegut Jr., Fritz Leiber, and many others. This is originally from 1952. This is a third printing from 1969. Trying to find who else is on here. Jack Finney, Henry Kuttner, Lester Del Rey, Eric Frank Russell, William Tent, Judith Merrill, Murray Leinster. So a good selection of authors. Another Thomas M. Dish, The Genocides, a Panther Granada paperback. Again, nice unbroken spine. A petrifying essay in the macabre. When aliens made all Earth a farm, first came the giant green plants smothering the entire planet, stifling all rival forms of life. Then came the incinerators, burning out the remaining vestiges of humanity. For mankind was to be exterminated like vermin in a cornfield. Oh, that sounds good. It does say that the best post-disaster yarn since the day the Triffids. But, yeah, this might come high up in my TBR. This is originally 1965. This is a 1979 reprint. We have another volume in the Conan series by Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter. This is book 9 with Conan's most fantastic adventure, Conan of the Isles. I think this was just one novel, I presume. This novel is based on and continues the Conan stories of Robert E. Howard. 1974 from Sphere Books. Right. 2 by one author. We have Greg Bear's The Infinity Concerto and its sequel, The Serpent Mage, both from Legend Publishers. I've got Blood Music to read sometime. It's on my TBR. And these are from 1988, these editions. Getting there, slowly. Next, a giant, one of the big three, Mr. Arthur C. Clarke, described as the Colossus of science fiction here, with Tales of 10 Worlds, a book of 18 stories, worlds of water and worlds of light, spaceships plummeting into darkness, asteroids burn into cinders in the flames of a nebulous sun, strange happenings, strange planets, as man dares to experiment in space. Tonight, a good blurb in the back. And this is from Corgi Books. It's a 1971 reprint. A second book by Roger Zelazny, My Name is Legion, from Sphere. All I've read of I think of Zelazny is some of the Amber books. I don't think I ever finished the series, but I've read the first 3 or 4. I must admit, I remember enjoying them. I've now got the paperback, which combines all of the massive paperback, which combines all of the Amber stories together. Need to get to that sometime. This is from 1983. A book in the Corgi SF Collector's Library, one of these ones with the textured covers. More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon, a very famous book, winner of the International Fantasy and Science Fiction First Prize. A book that has been described as psych fiction. It is a story of 5 beings, 2 little coloured girls with a speech impediment, 1 introspective girl whose mother was a whore, 1 mongoloid baby, and the idiot who was no idiot. It's a story of love and learning and compassion and the creation of a new and incredible species of man. Right, like I say, very famous novel. It's editions from 1973. Next up, Kurt Vonnegut, without the junior, by his father. Galapagos, irresistibly provocative and entertaining. I must admit, for a long time, I never read any Vonnegut. I always was a bit wary. I thought it might be just over my head, too surreal. But just this year, I read Slaughterhouse-Five and absolutely loved it. Thought it was excellent. So I'm looking to read more by Mr. Vonnegut. This one seems to be about Charles Darwin. There's the man himself. This is from Flamingo, not an imprint I know. It's part of the HarperCollins publishing house. And this is from 1985. Another anthology, Nebula Award Stories 5, edited by James Blish, from Panther. In decent condition. And this features stories by Theodore Sturgeon, Ursula K. Le Guin, Robert Silverberg, Harlan Ellison, Larry Niven, Samuel R. Delaney, and Alexei Panshin. So a stellar lot of writers. The Harlan Ellison one is A Boy and His Dog, famous story, which was filmed, wasn't it? And the Delaney one is another one I've heard of. Time Considered as a Helix of Semi-Precious Stones. A couple of essays, the SF novel in 1969 and short SF in 1969. Should be good. This is from 1970. Nearly finished. We have another by Samuel R. Delaney, The Einstein Intersection, in the Sphere Science Fiction Classics series. I like that cover again. This is Science Fiction Classic number 10, a novel of a strange far future where Einstein's laws of time and space no longer apply. (1973). Larry Niven, A Hole in Space. Not one I know of. This is a collection of short stories by the award-winning author of Ringworld, as it says on all its books. These stories go back to the early 70s, and the book was printed by Orbit in 1975. I think 3 left, and we have another Zelazny, Doorways in the Sand. Nice colourful cover. Man is no longer alone in the cosmos. The aliens have given a precious relic to the people of Earth, the Starstone, but when it vanishes, the harmony of the galaxy is threatened. Decent condition again. And it was originally published serially in Analog Science Fiction, Science Fact. And this is published by Star Books, not the coffee shop, in 1978. Oh, we have 2 classics to finish off with. James Blish's A Case of Conscience, part of the, what's the trilogy, or rather quartet really, of novels that this forms a part of. It's gone from my mind, sorry. But this was the first part, a novel of religion, I think. Science fiction novel. Comes highly recommend. I think this won all the awards at the time. This is from Penguin, and it's from 1963, so a very early edition. And finally, a book of short stories by possibly one of my favourite authors of all time, Ray Bradbury, The Machineries of Joy, or just Machineries of Joy. A Hollywood monster maker whose Tyrannosaurus Rex suddenly becomes alarmingly lifelike. A boy who raises giant mushrooms in his cellar until the mushrooms begin to raise him. A circus fat lady whose midget husband has tattooed every inch of her mammoth body with a fantastically intricate design. The weird and the beautiful, the macabre and bizarre are all created in Ray Bradbury's collection of tales, Machineries of Joy. I might have this in another livery, but I absolutely adore Bradbury. I don't think there's anybody quite like him in the style of his prose. Beautiful. My favourite novel is probably Something Wicked This Way Comes. Absolutely adore that. And that's one I need to get back to rereading. This is a Corgi edition, 1972. And that's about it. So quite a decent haul. Left loads behind, but to be honest, a lot of those were not in brilliant condition. Great as reading copies, but to go on the shelves, I'm not so sure. They had loads of the mammoth books of SF that I think Jonathan showed quite a while back when he got a whole series of them. Though these weren't as in good condition, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have got those as well. But I might go back and have a look and see if I've been a bit too choosy with some. Anyway, hope you enjoyed seeing those. Hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.